Hey YouTube gamers and retro fans, Sega fans, this is Dreamcast Lover with another video about the Sega control pad. I'm just doing a quick retrospective about this controller. In no way meant to be comprehensive, but I'm just going to show you some different models of this controller and how you can use it on all the different systems out there for all your 2D gaming, all your retro gaming, puzzle games, fighting games, 2D fighting games, and some 3D fighting games. Best controller out there that there is for 2D gaming, in my opinion, mainly because of the D-pad. It's a great D-pad, textured, doesn't give you calluses, and the button layout, especially for fighting games, you're strong, medium, and light punches, kicks, and then you've got two buttons up here for combinations, however you want to set that up. It's also great for platform gaming. First came out in, this particular model came out in 95 in Japan. The original color when Sega Saturn first came out in Japan was this color in 1994. This was a later model color. Came out in 95. We've got a clear shell 96, also for the Sega, of course for the Sega Saturn, and then here is the North American version, just the regular black controller. Same great D-pad, everything else the same as the Japanese version. A great controller for all those fighters and 2D gaming on the Sega Saturn. It was a lot more popular in Japan. A lot more Sega Saturn fans in Japan. So when the PlayStation came out, there was quite a bit of demand for a different type of D-pad. More specifically, the Sega Saturn D-pad. So here is a official release Sega PlayStation control pad, and yes, this is not a modded pad. This is an actual pad that was released in Japan. Kind of rare these days, but you can still find it on Yahoo auctions, Rakuten in Japan. Released by SLS. Now that is one of that is actually a Sega company, Sega Logistics Service. So it's an official pad. And why on earth would you want a Sega pad for the PlayStation? Well, there's quite a few fighters for all you fighting fans out there on the PlayStation. Here's just some examples. Again, there's far more titles that I can even go through that work well, that work great with this pad. A lot better with this pad, with the Sega Saturn pad, than with the regular PlayStation pad. You've got fighters, you've got some of these retro collections that came out on the PlayStation 2 that you can use the Sega Saturn control pad with. Samurai Showdown and Anthology. I mean, just so many titles on the PlayStation 2 that you can use this pad for. And again, it's a lot more comfortable to use than the PlayStation controller. PlayStation controller is great for 3D gaming, but if you're going to do some 2D gaming, some classic retro gaming on the PlayStation, you know, like this Capcom Classics collection, beat 'em ups, shooters, especially shooters, you're far off better with the Sega Saturn pad. Again, my opinion. So I'll just quickly go through these. Again, I'm just showing an example of the plethora of titles out there that are compatible with this pad. And I think this I think this pad came out right around, was it 2004, 2005? At right around the same time, Sega Logistics Service came out with some USB pads. They came out in all sorts of colors. There were white, black, gray, and then these, the blue one, and here you can see that it is indeed official. Little Sega logo on there. SLS logo on there. So these are replicas, as they call them in Japan, the replica of the Sega Saturn pad. These are definitely great with emulators. Some of those old arcade games that you can't, there's no arcades anymore, so you can't go and play them, and they're not on consoles. So pretty much your only option is to emulate them on your PC. So again, these are great pads, whether you have a PC or a Mac. Great pads to use for those retro arcade games on emulators. Now, some of the other systems that didn't have an official pad, an official Sega Saturn pad, you can actually use adapters. Here's one for the Dreamcast. This is one for the PS2. So you'd actually be able to get the PS2 pad, Sega Saturn pad, hook that up. There's a slot for the memory card. Plug that into your Dreamcast and you can play all your Dreamcast fighters. There's also one for the original Sega Saturn console pad. You just plug that in right there. And also for the Dreamcast, as I said, here's the plug for the memory card. And you can play all your Sega brawlers and fighting games, all your Sega shooters, Sega Dreamcast shooters. Here's some examples, again, not comprehensive, but just a few examples of games that, in my opinion, are played a lot better using the Saturn pad rather than the Dreamcast controller. Just go through these really quick here. For the Xbox, I recommend this adapter. There's a lot of adapters that are out there for the Xbox that you can plug the PS2 controller into, and a lot of them, unfortunately, do not work with the PlayStation, the Sega PlayStation Saturn pad, or the Sega PlayStation control pad, however you want to call it. But this one is the one I recommend. It's the Joybox. This will have no lag time, and it's fully compatible. All the buttons are functional, fully functional on the pad. Whereas some of the other adapters that I tried did not work, or there were lag time, or the D-pad didn't work at all. You won't have that problem with this adapter, though. So again, for the original Xbox, just a few examples of games that are far better being played using the Sega Saturn pad. For the 360, we've got this adapter here. It's a PS2 adapter once again, but got this Sega PlayStation pad right here. You plug that right in. Goes into the Xbox. And now you can play all your Xbox games using this awesome pad. Not all of them, of course, but just the ones that are compatible with the D-pad. So got some classic games right here, just again a few examples. Compilations and Tekken 6, both the story and the actual gameplay, or the actual one-on-one gameplay, is a lot better with the Sega pad. Super Street Fighter there. Now the Wii has quite a few games through the retro games through the Virtual Console, and several games on the other option that they have. I can't remember what it is, but where it's kind of like an indie game, where you can buy the indie games. But again, the Joy Box makes the better adapter. Once again, it's a PS2 adapter, so you just take your Sega PlayStation control pad, plug that right in, and you're able to play your favorite Wii games. Just a couple examples. Most of the games that I play on the Wii, the retro games, are through the Virtual Console. The Virtual Console goes in the Wii or GameCube if you prefer. I don't have a GameCube. I have a few GameCube games for the Wii that I play on the Wii. But whether it's a GameCube or a Wii, you've got this adapter, so you can use your Sega Saturn pad, your Sega PlayStation pad. And of course on the PS3. Now the PS3 is kind of interesting because you can actually use these SLS USB pads, and they're pretty much compatible. The only thing that you don't have is the select button. So you can take one of these adapters, PS2 to PS3 adapters, and again, using your Sega PlayStation control pad, plug that right in, and play all of your PS3 games, all of your 2D retro gaming PS3 games. Now this one especially needs the control pad like this. The SLS controller will work, but you'll have a hard time navigating because it doesn't have that select button. Again, just a few examples of games that you can use this pad with on the PS3 that are compatible with the D-pad. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. Hope if you are interested in finding yourself a Sega control pad, Sega PS control pad, I'll put down some links down below, or a SLS pad if you're in the market for that. They're mainly available through Japanese sites. You have to do some digging, but I'll put some links down below for those of you who are interested. Thanks for watching, and game on.